Peace, family. Let me see. Keep the link to my brother Moses. Hopefully, my brother Moses come in. Yeah. I'm gonna talk briefly about the black woman and did the black woman betray the black community? Because I was just on a live stream for about a good 2 hours, and with some brothers, and we was arguing back and forth on a back chat, and to sum it up in all but so many words, this dude believes that the black woman is responsible for the demise of the black community. And you know, we was going head up, and we was going at it for a while. So I figured out, you know what? Hold on, wait a minute. Damn, why is this thing spinning? I said, you know, I might as well go live and discuss this. Hold on for a second. This thing is acting up. Give me just 1 second. I don't know why is it. All right, it should be fixed now. Okay, here we go. 1 second. That noise. My videos. Hold on a second. All right, here we go. Let me turn by it. Yeah. Peace, Shelley Sterling. Yeah, so you know, the brother went on to say, you know, the black woman basically is the black woman's fault that the community is in disarray. And one thing about me, you know, I'm a truth teller, I'm a realist. I try to break shit down in the manner in what it should be, and just be honest about certain things. And he tried to say, well, feminism in the 60s destroyed the black community. And I'm like, how can feminism destroy the black community when you have our women are under the control of the white man? I keep telling y'all, he provides education for her. He provides paychecks for her. He provides food, shelter, and clothing for her. All of these things that as black men that we haven't been able to do. We was fighting for civil rights. We was fighting for different laws. So he basically came to me and said, well, basically while we were fighting for this as men, the black women went behind our backs and viciously and evenly created deals, I guess, with the white power structure for them to be empowered through feminism. And I was saying to him, well, if the black woman did this shit, what the fuck was the black men doing while our women was being manipulated into doing this shit? Where the fuck was we at? You know, so this is the premise on what I want to get at, because I want to talk about, if we're going to fix the black community, we got to be honest. Am I saying that the black woman is not without accountability? No, that's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is we are a destroyed people culturally all the way around the board. And we got to deal with a lot of different things, not just black women having a bunch of babies, but a lot of brothers running around with loose dicks, putting babies inside these women and not taking care of them. We got to deal with our mentality that we have. We got to deal with us when we came, as we begin to fight for civil rights and things like that. A lot of our women, when you study the history, felt like that they wasn't included, felt like that they was pushed to the back. On a lot of issues. There was colorism amongst blacks with the Angela Davis, the light-skinned and the dark-skinned women, and how they used the light-skinned pretty faces to put in the cameras and out front. Like, we got to study our history. So, on the YouTube streaming live tonight, giving out that quality information. You coming in, Moses? I sent you the link if you coming in. Yeah, so you know, it's sad because I just feel like we can talk about all the things that happened to us in history. Yeah. Hold on. Yeah, check it, because I sent it to you. I sent it to you first. Yeah, we could talk about all the things that happened to us in history, but for us to come out now with the ones that's supposed to be conscious. Us people that's supposed to be conscious about certain things that's going on, for us to now come and be still at each other's throat and still to be separate from each other, to me, I think it is wrong. And it just shows you just how unconscious we are. You know, once we get into the know about certain things, it's not the black woman's fault. It's not the black man's fault. It's just the fact that we've been conquered as a people. And the thing is, they also said that black women controls culture. And I'm saying no, no. When you deal with nations, any nation in the history of nationism or nationhood or whatever, men take and create nations with logic and force through military. And they create laws and they enforce it with military. The women that they bring into the nation gives birth. Peace, lovely five. The women that they bring into the nation gives birth to the nations. And these are the things that we got to understand. So no, feminism is not controlled by white women. Feminism is controlled by the elite whites that allows white women to spew their feminist rhetoric on these out into the media and on these social media platforms and in movies and everything else. This still is a white male dominated patriarchal that's controlled by the media, his institutions, and his education. And he allows certain things to go on to keep things in chaos. It's still controlled by white men. It's still dominated by white men, as Dr. Nellie Fuller teaches us. So we got to get out of this mindset of saying, well, wait a minute, it's the women's fault and the women is raising these kids. 78% of black women is being raised by 78% of these black babies is being raised by black women. Well, we know that 78% of these babies is being raised by black women, and that means that there's a declaration of war on the black family, because there's no reason for peace. There's no reason for our women to be being raised, our children to be being raised by 78% of black women. Where's the men? Now, one would say, now these brothers will come off and say that it's the black woman's fault that the men are not in the home. And you know, that's like super confusing to me. How can it be the black woman's fault that the men are not in the home when we know historically where it's happening, the pitfalls? And within the white male patriarchal society, he creates conditions where nobody will be able to raise up and challenge his authority. So he keeps all men at a subordinate level. This is the way the system is being ran, and it keeps it in chaos. So when you get to the feminism, I can shoot that feminism shit down just from before it even start. Hold on a second. It's very easy, because feminism is not funded and controlled by white women. Feminism is funded and controlled by white male elite groups. These the Robert Mercers, the Koch family, and all these different Rupert Murdoch and all these different people that control media. These are the groups that fund these things that allow this propaganda and these things to go into the conscience and the minds of the people through media outlets and movies. This is what you got to understand. And to galvanize women together, to put the forged groups through that consciousness, and to begin to put their money together to get certain political laws passed in order for women's favor. But it starts through media. It starts through the consciousness. And these things are funded by males. If the white male dominated society didn't want it to happen, then it won't happen. There hasn't been a war or a military coup to usurp the people that's been in power right now. It hasn't happened. So now I would have to ask the question, when we was fighting for civil rights, you know, with the bill we had in the 50s and then the bill we had in the 60s, where was our women? What was the conditions of our women? What was our men doing? Was our men walking around high in stature and violent? Were they men of valor? Or did we have a lot of debauchery going on within our community? They say today, priest, Brother Nubian, they say today, 1 out of every 6, four out of every 10 black women are molested before the age of 18. So we know that that's going on now. Let's go back to the point when women had no rights from the 50s on back. How high was that percentage back then? I don't like the games that's being played by a lot of these weak ass dudes, man. I don't tolerate this shit. And I'm not saying, when I say this, I'm not saying that the women is not without accountability, but if we're gonna fix the black community, then let's be honest about certain shit. Let's do it in a godly, righteous way. Let's be honest. If we know that 4 out of 6 black women today are molested before the age of 18, let's go back to our grandma in the era. when our people was coming out of slavery, coming out of a lot of that fucked up behavior that was never fixed. How many of our black women was being molested? How many of our black women was being raped by different groups? How many of our grandmothers were being raped when they used to clean houses working for the white man, where the black man couldn't do nothing about it? Or if he did, the grandma would stop him because she wanted to save his life. She wanted to save him from getting hung. See, we got to understand that a lot of us, because we was raised in this culture and we was stripped of our thorough knowledge and stuff, when we got so-called emancipated or free, we begin to behave, a lot of us begin to behave towards our women the same way the white man did. And I can prove it to you. Because when you got out of line, what did your grandma say? Go get my switch, I'm gonna whip you. We brought those cultures and those four-ways and those thought processes out of slavery right into our culture. The way that we talk, the way that we move, the colorism, the light skin, the dark skin, the way that we did. A lot of our grandfathers, before they had crack, alcohol was the crack cocaine or the heroin. They got drunk every day. They was fucked up because they didn't have no rights. So a lot of our men wallowed in their misery. Not all, but a lot of them did. A lot of our men had multiple families because we became the white men in brown skin because we was decultured as a people. And after slavery, during Reconstruction, we began to build. When they took the troops out, they came and started burning all our shit down. Those people that you saw hanging from poles and hanging from trees and all that type of shit, look at what they had on. Some of them had suits. They were land and property owners. They was burning down our cities. They was cutting off our natural way of living. So yeah, we got a civil rights bill passed. Was it 18? Damn, I can't even remember. The first civil rights bill passed, but I know that a lot of that bill was rescinded in 1883 after the civil rights, after the Supreme Court said that they didn't have to abide by any laws towards black people. So that around that time is when your Jim Crow was in, and then your Plessy versus Ferguson in 1896. So we went through a lot of shit, but our women didn't have any rights. And for some reason, people think I'm a simp when I'm honest about this shit. But I feel as though we're not going to get blessed, or things is not good. Things is not going to happen for us until we're honest about certain shit. I know I'm in my 40s. All the way back to when I was a kid, a lot of our women, our moms still was getting their ass whooped, getting beat the fuck up. Our pops and watching your uncles beat the shit out of his girlfriend and all that type of that shit was real in the community, man. Like, let's stop playing games, man. We as men, we mistreated our women because, and I'm not saying that to put us down. I'm saying that because when you've been robbed of a thorough knowledge of stuff and you never had a voice and you never had any type of power, you could not be a man within your own home. We took our frustration out on our families and our women and our children. These are the things that happen to us. But oh, George is a simp. George is wrong. George is not telling the truth. It's just everything is the black woman's fault. No, the black woman. Right. I do see. You know what, brother Art? I allow some brothers to vent to start the healing process. But sometimes when the venting go too far to the point where it gets too far to the left, to the point where we look at the community today and we think that everything that just happened is the black woman's fault. And I'm trying to tell brothers, listen, the way our sisters is behaving today is a declaration of war on the male power structure that created this fucking vacuum within our communities. And we fell to realize that, or some of us do, and I'm gonna read some shit to y'all. Some of us do, but because a lot of us are afraid of the white man, we'll kill each other in a heartbeat. A lot of us is afraid of the white man, we're afraid of telling the truth and just coming out with truth. This shit is a declaration of war on what they did to our families. The mere fact that a lot of our women went into the feminism in the 60s, you gotta read the ledgers, read the history, study why a lot of our women was persuaded. I told y'all, a lot of our women just catch them by your example of weakness. Yeah, and I try to. Simp things with everything. It runs pathetic. Right, he do. And we gotta stop and see me speaking the way I'm speaking now is not being a simp or saying that black women is not without accountability. What I'm saying is historical events that happened. And we came out with a lot of these atrocities. and we behaved the way that we was designed to behave. They used to breed us. They used to breed us. They used to have breeding farms. They used to breed us to make slaves and to make babies. And we seen women as a piece of meat. They used to come and allow us to get married, but the slave master would just come fuck our woman. And what nothing we could do about it but put our head down. We still carry that shit within our DNA, man. The white man can fuck our woman over any kind of way, and we just put our head down and don't do nothing about it. And then we blame our women the same way we did in the plantation. We turn around and say, well, you ain't have to let him master fuck you. You ain't have to. But we wasn't willing, but a lot of us wasn't willing to die. Or when we was, our woman shut it down and said no because she wanted to preserve life. So I'm just keeping it a buck on certain things before I really read into some of these different things on what really happened. Because I got my brother Moses here with me too. Moses Jenkins, he gonna build, because now the thing was, they saying that the black woman intentionally betrayed the black community. And I got a hard time believing that, because black women have been holding down black boys and the black community for a long time. We are all victims of different schools, right? And that's all I'm trying to say, Art. We are all victims, but for some reason, these brothers is trying to make it seem like we did everything right and the black woman betrayed us. And I'm like, yo, listen, we are under white male patriarchal demonic forces that's controlling us, that decultured us and created a culture to make us vicariously live through it. And it affects the black man and the black woman differently. So we have different reactions to it. But I'll let Moses come in for a minute and speak, and then I'll elaborate more before I read. Where you at, brother Moses? You there, Moses? Well, yeah, until he come back, yeah, I'll speak some more. Hey, there we go. You there, Moses? Yeah, we can't. Let me see if I can turn you up.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you good now. Yeah, we can hear you.
All right, yeah. Let me see if I can try to get these headsets in, man.
Yeah, you sound good. You loud too.
I don't know if it's coming through. Can you hear me?
You sounded better before you put the headsets on.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you sound great.
All right, perfect. So I just wanted to revisit one of the things that was said in the back chat and bring that to light, just so we can kind of contextualize it just a bit more, if you don't mind. One of the statements that you made there was powerful. And I want to get it word for word. You said the culture that we brought out of slavery, the culture that we brought out of slavery. And I know you're going to elaborate a bit more on it. But what I wanted to kind of do was kind of look at some of that Jim Crow era. The 1877 to 1950 was Jim Crow. It kind of overlapped a little bit with the women's suffrage movement. They got that as 1848 to 1920. And then I believe he picks up after the 50s in the civil rights, and that's where he's saying that a lot of the black man and the black woman's dynamics, our relationships, suffer from there, with civil rights, with integration, with some of the bills that were passed in the second civil rights bill. So wanted to pick up there because you started here with one of the questions was, when was the first civil rights? That first Civil Rights Act was 1866. And interesting, even more interesting, is the Homestead Act that was passed in 1862, which was that bill from Abraham Lincoln that encouraged Western migration. A little bit of details about that and why it's important is because it's going to kind of lay the premise for that leadership, or the patriarchy versus the matriarchy, and where those lines start to break down. So pretty quickly, it was a small filing fee. 160 acres of land were granted, 5 years of continuous residency, and they could receive ownership. That was those who would receive or who wanted to participate in the Homestead Act and move westward. Now, we know that this wasn't something that benefited African Americans, but because Africans were a part of the nation, that is something that had to been playing in the back of our what is it, probably three greats deep grandparents' minds. So lay that premise, move it through Reconstruction, where we have a lot of the black codes and things, Fugitive Slave Act, the war happened, a lot of things that happened that prevented African Americans from being able to sign contracts. Two of the great leaders that you brought up that were alive during this period were the Booker T. Washingtons and the W.E.B. Du Bois debates. That's relevant also today. One of them, the bootstrap argument, pick yourself up by your bootstraps, more, self how do we self autonomy or self accountability, industry, enterprises, trade, a lot of the capitalist theories that go into it. And then that was Booker T, obviously. And then the W.E.B. Du Bois is the form of education, higher attainment through the talented tense leadership. That's important as we continue to build, because they're still trying to figure out this: what will we do with black folks, or what will black folks do with themselves once they are free? And this is all before the women's suffrage movement really finds its culmination with the 19th Amendment, or women's right to vote. That's important. The thing that we note is, did African American women betray that black male patriarchy due to a number of external issues that deal with power, and that just a position of power being the acquisition of land. Through those 20s and 30s, did we have African Americans who were able to move into ownership of land? Yes, we see that through Tulsa, Oklahoma. We see that through Black Wall Street in North Carolina. Is it North Carolina, Durham? I think it is Durham, North Carolina. I actually visited there too, so I don't even know why I'm saying is it. I've been there and I've seen it. The bank is still there. So yes, there was land, there was opportunities being created. So the question was, what happened? Was it the black woman deciding with her own agency that it wasn't fast enough, that the acquisition of land and ownership was not matriculating at a fast enough rate? Did she decide then that her place was no longer, her role was no longer subjugated to the home, that she could be a force? We know that there were service class roles that were opened up. Even I believe Oprah Winfrey's a movie that she was in, what was it, The Butler or something, kind of alludes to it. But so we're in the 20s, before the Great Depression, trying to keep it chronological so people can follow us. The 20s happen, and there is land and there's acquisitions. What starts happening then, I believe, was it the first war, World War I, kicks off, and this big idea about communism, which is important, right? When you're dealing with African Americans deciding that the community or the collective interests are bigger than the individual's attainment. So if that is the, what do we call it? The social conditioning that's going on in America, the social conditioning, meaning the very strategic messaging and role of the media and of the one percenters. What message are they sending down? It was an anti-collectivist ideology. And so that goes through the 60s. And I think that's where we'll pick up with that as a pretext, just a bit of the educational background, all the way up to the civil rights, which most people are familiar with, and the strong voices that happened there, from the Carter G. Woodsons to the Martin Luther King Jr.'s, and into the 40s and the next war, the Red Scare, and even the Great Depression, those key points that folks know about. But that 50, 60, 70, 80-year head start, 160 acres, they could even purchase them for, it looks like $1.25, which would have been the equivalent of $200 if they didn't have 5 continuous years of residency. And that land, and what does that land and wealth do for you as a people? And the black folks who were a part of that world, that community, wanting a piece of that wealth. And how is it that they thought that they could get it? Would it be through political expediency? The men who were typically the ones who were supposed to fight that battle, having been afforded those rights with the earlier amendments to the Constitution, the black men, that is, and then them finding failure after failure, even through Black Wall Street and the burning down of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and then the women assuming a role of agency in political and even spiritual affairs, them leaving the house and making their presence known economically, did that make them agents? Did that give them agency to fight this battle? And if so, they did declare agency. Does that make them at fault? This is my question to you for any of the outcomes that may have happened once they undermined black male patriarchy. All right. Sorry I was so long winded, but I just had to drop those gems as a pretext. So pick it up from there, big bro. You still there? Can't hear you.
Yeah, can you hear me now? Can you hear
Yes,
me?
sir. You're back on. You're back on.
Yeah, I forgot I had it locked in. Yeah, a lot damn, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, what I was saying was, yeah, Dr. King spoke on that act and how the land grant was supposed to come to us, but it was actually given to white immigrants that came here. And we was forced to actually train them to actually and how to live on the damn land. And that's what King in one of his speeches said. We come to DC, we're not coming for rights, we coming for our check. He was actually talking about that act. But when you deal with this black feminism stuff and what they spoke about, whether when you were like from the 20s to like the 40s, you had black women black women that was fighting for civil rights act, fighting for civil rights and different things for women. I mean, like Claudia Jones, Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks and them, her and Esther Cooper helped organize. They helped to organize Reese Teller. We know Reese Teller that was raped in 1944 by a gang of white men, and they actually got away with it. You know what I'm saying? So then you had black feminists like Mary Terrell. So you had the feminist movement back then, but they was actually fighting to basically protect black women's rights from racism and things that was happening from white women through from white men. So it's the most black women stop teaching and took occupations that fully removed. I'm gonna get to that. I think the problem that we run into. I think the problem that we run into is what happened during like the 60s and the 70s when you listen to a lot of things that the women were speaking, that a lot of things the women were speaking about. They felt like they felt like the primary focus was on oppression of black men, but many women faced severe sexism within the civil rights groups as the student nonviolent coordinating committee. So a lot of women was felt like the day was done wrong, especially when Stokely Carmichael was the elected chair of the SNCC. So a lot of problems started back then where black women, remember I told y'all when I first came on here, and I'm not simping, I'm telling y'all, a lot of us as men, we begin to treat our women damn near the same way the white man treated his woman. So now what happened was this combination of the raised black power, it started to have black women go into these different trends where they started to see the issues with all women. And a lot of our black women during that time, they begin to think that all women suffer from oppression, even white women, particularly poor white women, Indian women, Mexican women, Puerto Rican women, Oriental women. But black women whose oppression was triple about above mentioned, they all begin to come together on what they had in common. They was all being ruled within their communities by not black males, but by males. And this is where your feminism came in at. But the feminism came in because a lot of our women during the Black Power movement and stuff was put on the back burner. But it didn't start in the 60s. That stuff was going on in the 20s, the 30s, and the 40s, and the 50s. And I just tell the truth on what was going on. You had colorism. You had a lot of women being molested. A lot of our men was drinking. There was a lot of shit. A lot of our men was being hung. And because we didn't take the white man to war, we took a lot of that shit out on our women. So you got to read the different waves of feminism and what some of our women said as to why they did it. You can't just read certain shit and then just throw it away and say, oh man, it's just all the women fuck what they say. None of that shit is true. No, I sit and I have conversations with my dad that's in his 70s. He was around for that time. We talk about these different things. So, and I'm not saying that the woman is not without fault whereas though some of them should have saw the tricks that was going on, but we wasn't there at that time. And all of these different women from all these different groups begin to come together. But we know that the white woman is a dog, and she saw the benefits that she can get by getting the black woman over to her side, by getting the Mexican and all these so-called other groups of oppressed women over to them sides, and they can make their numbers grow, and they can make them more powerful. And this is what the white woman did. So I want to read something to you. I'm going to share my screen real quick. I'm going to read something to you. I want y'all to see something. Let me share the screen. This is a book here, right? I want y'all to check out. How Black intellectuals have abandoned the ideals of the civil rights era. Now, this is actually a good book. This is a good read, right? And I just read a little excerpt from the book. And this goes into this conversation. How Black intellectuals have abandoned the ideals of the civil rights era, right? This is by Houston A. Baker. He condemns Black intellectuals who believes have turned their backs on the traditions of radical activism in America. These individuals choose personal gain over the interests of the Black community, whether they are espousing neoconservative positions that distort the contours of the contemporary social and political dynamics, or abandoning race as an important issue in the study of American literature and culture. Most important, they do a disservice to the legacy of Du Bois, Martin Luther King, and others who have fought for Black rights. And the literature, speeches, and academic and public behavior of some Black intellectuals in the past quarter century, Baker identifies a hungry generations eager for power, respect, and money. Baker critiques his own impoverished childhood in the Little Africa section of Louisville, Kentucky, to understand the shaping of this new public figure. He also revisits classical sites of African American literary and historical criticism and critique. Baker devotes chapters to the writing and thought of such Black academic superstars such as Cornel West, Michael Eric Dyson, Henry Louis Gates, Hoover Institution, senior fellow Shelby Steele, law professor Stephen Carter, and Manhattan Institute fellow John McWhorter. His provocative investigation into their disingenuous posturing exposes what Baker deems as a tragic betrayal of King's legacy. So I'm reading this because I want a lot of y'all to understand that a lot of this stuff is not just off of feminism. It came from the betrayal of the political structure and us being educated within these institutions, and a lot of these boule groups and a lot of these fraternities that sold us out. It wasn't the Black woman going to feminism. It was a lot of Black women and men being a part of these fraternity groups, selling out the greater portion of the community. The educated ones, the economically intelligent ones. A lot of those groups sold us the fuck out. And this is how our communities got into the position that they were in. Baker concludes with a discussion of American myth and the role of the U.S. prison industrial complex and the disappearing of Blacks. Baker claims King would have criticized these Black intellectuals for not presently raising their voices against private prison systems that incarcerate so many men and women of color. To remedy this situation, Baker urges Black intellectuals to forge both sacred and secular connections with local communities and rededicate themselves to social responsibility. As he sees it, the mission of the Black intellectuals today is not to do great things, but to do specific, radically based work in the interest of the Black majority. And I think that these are the questions that we should, these are the conversations that we should be having, not blaming the Black woman, for the betrayal of the Black community, because it's not the Black woman. It's what I always tell you. It's the elite groups, the Black elites that got educated within this system, that understand how the system works. They betrayed the Black community. And these are the ones that's coming out and getting you to vote Democrat and Republican and be a part of these different groups. You're being sold down the river by your own fucking people. And then they come out here with this rhetoric, and you'll go on these social media platforms and you'll see a black conservative group. You'll see another group blaming black women. You can't paint black education excellent with a broad stroke. See, we got to get out of that mindset. Nobody's painting them with a broad stroke. I'm telling you what happened. Is that to say that that's everybody? Like, we got to stop doing that. You can't paint all black women with a broad stroke. I'm not doing that. Like, we got to get out of that mindset. Just because I'm saying what I'm saying, that doesn't mean that I'm painting everybody with a broad stroke. I'm speaking on historical references. Why, if I say that, all of a sudden I'm speaking with a broad stroke? Like, we got to stop playing the game. Let's talk about what happened and what's happening. I'm not painting everything with a broad stroke, because that's not everybody, but it was a large portion of our people. Right, people should be listening, because there's a large portion of our people. Most of the people know what I'm saying, and I'm well aware of what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is, on these social media platforms, you have different groups, right? You have people blaming women. You have women blaming men. You have conservative groups saying that we should have a body politic and vote within the different parameters of structure and get certain laws passed. Well, you already got laws on the books that's not being enforced by the people that created the laws. So we know that that's not working. Then you have people still fighting for civil rights, and you have your black radicals. So you have the black community sectioned off into all these different situations, and the majority of the people on the ground confused, trying to figure out which way to go. So I came on a live stream today because I wanted to speak to this, because I'm just looking at it like, how is it that all of a sudden, with all these different divisions within the black community, how is it when I left the conscious community and I go out to the greater community, all I hear is black men saying it's the black woman's fault for the situation, when I'm like, well, wait a minute. There's a lot of events that led up to the demise of the black community. Because even before you, right, the laws don't matter. The laws don't matter. There's already laws on the book that should be protecting us. That has nothing to do with black women. There was laws on the book that should have been protecting us from unfair housing. There was laws on the book there was laws on the books that should have been protecting us from crack cocaine being put into our community during the Isle of the North and Reagan administration. There was laws on the books. There was laws on the book that should have been protecting us from the heroin holocaust during the Corsican heroin trade. It was laws on the books, but they wasn't enforced. That had nothing to do with black feminism. I'm only saying people will start to push back on John. So I got that, but see, the only people that's going to push back on them are the ignorant people, brother Art. The ignorant people that don't have a concept of listening. We know that a lot of our black intellectualism, we know that there was war declared on black intellectualism, because they didn't want us to be intelligent. They didn't want us to start thinking outside of the box. They wanted to keep us divided and keep the debauchery within the black community going. This is why when I read to you guys about the different things within the feminism is when it says Stokely Carl, like I said, when Stokely Carmichael was elected as chairs to the SNCC, you know, a lot of women felt like they didn't have equality. A lot of women felt like during his administration that the women was treated unfairly. So now, but it was always complaints like that during the civil rights movement. What's the woman that discovered the that wouldn't get up first? I forgot, before Rosa Parks, but she didn't have the look. So they didn't use her. They used Rosa Parks because Rosa Parks had a better look. So there was always colorism. We came out of so-called slavery with a bunch of fucked up shit, man. And don't nobody want to talk about that shit, but I talk about it. And me talking about that is not putting black men down. It's telling the truth. It's telling the truth. Do I support black feminism? No. But when I come on my live streams, Book My Duty, and I talk about and do the live stream that I did about black damn, what the fuck, the last big live stream I did when I showed the reports about depression in the black community and all these different things. And I show how 4 out of 6 black women and 1 out of 6 black boys are molested. Kids are killing themselves and all kinds of stuff is going on today. Go all the way back to that time. Imagine what was going on. Do y'all know where the term honky came from? When a white man would come up and honk the horn, and that black woman would go out there because she had to go out there and sleep with that white man. Like, there's a lot of shit that went on during our time that don't nobody want to fucking talk about, or either our people are not educated on it. So this our black women that went over to feminism, some of them didn't just go over there for no reason. It's like it said all women suffer oppression, even white women, particularly poor white women, especially Indian, Mexican, Puerto Rican, or Oriental, and black women whose oppression is tripled by any of the above mentioned. But what we have in common, but we do have female oppression in common. That means that we can talk to other women with this common factor and start building links with them, and thereby build a transform for revolutionary force we are now beginning to amass. And the white woman seen that, and she took control of that shit. And during the civil rights movement, she began to get more rights out of damn near the civil rights movement than everybody else, because she was at the helm of that shit. And this is the part that we fail to realize. But what I'm saying is I'm not letting our behavior that we begin to perpetuate on each other off of the hook. And this is where that shit forged from. But people call me crazy. They say, oh, George don't know what he's talking about. George just talking crazy. And I'm not talking crazy. I'm not talking crazy. We gotta look at the factors of things that was going on. And that's why I'm trying to tell you, I'm 43 years old. If I go back 30 something years ago, man, inside the house, man, a lot of our sisters and moms and aunts used to get beat up because brothers was frustrated, or we had this dominant way of a way we think we should be because we the man in the house and we operate. It's a lot of shit. Some men didn't want women to be harmed. No, I agree with that. Some men didn't want women to be harmed on the front line, but some men, because we became white men and brown skin, didn't want women on out in front at all. And we took away rights from our women the same way the white man did, because that's what we understood. The biggest weapon that the colonizers used against the black man, black women, is to divide and conquer, right? And it's still working today, right? And this is what I'm saying. Some of us, what I'm trying to tell you is, some of us became this white man. We oppressed our women the same way he did. I don't understand how it's so hard for brothers to understand that. And I'm not saying that with sipping. I'm telling y'all brothers the truth. Some of y'all watching me right now know damn well, if y'all my age, some of y'all mothers got fucked up by your dad. Some of y'all seen y'all uncles fuck his wife up. Some of y'all got a stepbrother or a stepsister because Pop had another family. All of this shit was going on back then, man, because the women didn't have the rights that they had now. They were stay-home moms. Some people see the world through the man in the home and changes. If you look at how intimate partner violence is recreational, right? So what I do is I like to deal with facts, because I believe, this is what I believe, Big Game James. I believe if I'm a black man and I tell the truth, I'm not saying that black men was not wholesale abusing black women, but there was a lot of abuse in the black community. Let's be honest. There was a lot of abuse. There was a lot of us had multiple families. We had children. We had a whole bunch of shit. This is before the 60s. There was a cycle that was going on. A lot of our grandfathers left the home. They had been left the home before the 60s. They had multiple homes. Man, if y'all my age and older, it was times when Pop would come home, give grandmom some money, and he'd leave that Friday, come back the Sunday night before he had to go back to work. So, let's not act like that shit was prevalent. That was big. So a lot of things, what happened was, as the technology began to grow during the 60s and 70s, you start seeing black women begin to speak out against certain shit. that was going on in the 30s and the 40s. Because I told y'all when we came out of slavery, we came out with a lot of pathological behavior that was never dealt with. And we still exhibit it now. We still exhibit a lot of these pathological behaviors today with all the killings that we doing to each other. That wasn't the majority of black men, or even yes, it was. You can say what you want to say, big game. It was a large portion of us because it still plays out now. And that's the part. We don't want to admit this shit. It still plays out now. It was the thought process and the way we moved and operated. It was the thought process. We moved and operated this way. And it was okay. So now when you have the destruction of the black community, when you have like the heroin came in, the gangs and all these different things, and you start seeing the breakdown of the fucking home and the mom start to be at the forefront. A lot of that stuff came into play. See, you gotta remember just how powerful alcohol was on the black community. See, forget crack for a minute. Let's do away with crack and heroin. Let's deal with alcohol in the black community. But nobody want to deal with that. See, because nobody's thinking about that. That was the first heroin, alcoholism. That shit was serious. So yeah, abuse was big. Control the human's problems above, right? Sometimes we're moving from the effects, but later we fell back into it. Right. We was beginning to move. I'm gonna read something to y'all again. I'm gonna share the screen real quick, and then I'll let Moses come in. Let me share this. I want y'all to see this real quick. Show y'all some of the things that happened to us, right? Now here we go. Once in the White House, Kennedy faced pressure from civil rights activists to make good on what King called a huge promissory note to pass meaningful civil rights legislation. When President Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Now, mind y'all, watch this book, Mind Duty. Right, you said your grandfather was an alcoholic. Yeah, because back then, alcoholic was the heroin and crack. Let's be honest. But see, I'm too honest for a lot of people where I make people think about shit. And we don't want to think about these things. We just being reactionary. I'm pointing these things out to let you know how things got this way. That's the only thing I'm doing. So watch this, right? Now, you see this shit here? When Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, he cemented a political alliance between African Americans and the Democratic Party that continues to this day. Now, how can another man give us civil rights and voting rights when they never were civil to us in the first place? That right there is a key to why women was able to even get over there to feminism. Because we had to get civil rights as men from another fucking man. So now, watch this, top boss. My son is 10 years old. My son has to ask me before he can go outside or else he can't. And if I catch him outside when he's not supposed to be, there's going to be a punishment. So we are still like the sons to this white man. He came, he punked us, he beat us, he overtook us, he enslaved us, he Jim Crowed us, he Plessy versus Ferguson us, he did all these different things, right? So we got all these different civil rights act passed. How are we getting something civil rights from a people that was never civil? Then he gave us permission to vote. These are other men giving other men permission to do something in front of our women. But y'all want to play this game with me? See, it's not the other way around. The white woman is not watching the white man have to bow down to the black man. She's not watching the white man have to go get civil rights acts from us. It's the black woman watching us go get civil rights and voting rights acts from the white man. So that lets you know that we were already conquered. So how are we blaming the woman? How are we blaming the woman for fucking up the black community when we already in position in 1964 when we're getting permission from the goddamn white man to have to be treated civil? We're getting permission for the third time from the goddamn white man to have a Voting Rights Act. But a lot of my black people, a lot of my brothers just want to gloss over that. If your son or your daughter go outside without your permission, they get in trouble because they belong to you. We are not dependent of this white man. We belong to him. He gave us permission to do shit. Let's stop playing these goddamn games. So when I say that because of this, we became the white man in brown skin to our own fucking women, because when we knew that we was not allowed to be men, we were boys to the white men, we took all our frustration out in that bottle on our women. But nobody, y'all not hearing me. I'm telling y'all what happened. Right. At what point does he know he's a man? I don't know. But I'll read on. Because see, mind you, the white woman is not watching her man have to cow down to us and get rights from us. It's the black woman watching that. So the black woman is saying, God damn, I'm being mistreated by my man. And my man is cowering down to this white man. Fuck it, I might as well go the fuck over here. Maybe I can do better. Because this motherfucker's coming home drunk every goddamn night. He's beating me. Uncle Rick is molesting my babies. Here we go. Let's keep reading. By celebrating these landmarks, listen to this shit. Listen to this big game. So, whites weren't always empowered, though. Here we go. Watch this, right? Watch this. White women had to wholesale be on board with support for the white man to regain power. Well, that's true. We're not saying that. See, this is the thing, big gang. We're not saying that I always say that the white woman is complicit with her man. So you got to watch the videos when I speak about the rise of the mulatto. The white woman was always complicit with her man. Of course she was. So what I'm saying is, but watch this, big gang. By celebrating these landmark pieces of legislation makes it easy to overlook that black people in the United States lost when civil rights equality for blacks were hitched to the Democratic Party. So first of all, we hitched our rights. Look at this shit. We hitched our civil rights. Grown fucking men hitched their civil rights to a fucking party, right? That we know that didn't belong to us. So that right there lets you know, as Dr. Nellie Fuller teaches us, that we are not men, we are boys within this system, because we are not in control of our own destiny. We was given rights that they can take away, that they never honored, that they never enforced on the books. That's why we still being shot in the street and they still getting away with it. But this is the thing, big gang, this what I'm trying to let you know. Black women, there are millions of black women behind us, but there's millions of black women that's hurt, that don't understand the system, and it's up to us men to get back power. See, this is the thing. The white woman is protected by that white man. The white man treats his white woman any way he wants to, but he won't let nobody else do it. You disrespect that white woman, big game, and watch what that white man come do to you. He not having that shit, because that's his woman. She belongs to him. He'll let you fuck her. He'll let you play around with her, but that white woman belongs to him. And this is the thing. Do our women belong to us? No, because we don't even belong to us. We belong to this goddamn white man under this system, because he's the one that gives us rights. That's all I'm saying, bro. Now watch this. Watch this, and I let Brother Moses come in, because I know I'm long-winded for me. Let me just get through this. While the passage of the Civil Rights Act helped Johnson earn support from 94% of black voters in 1964, there is a gulf between what black Americans hoped the legislation would achieve and what the Democratic politicians actually delivered. Although the Civil Rights Act of 1964 helped end apartheid conditions in the South, a critical objective for which grassroots black Southern activists fought and died, the legislation did little to address the structures of racism that shapes black lives in the cities like Chicago, Los Angeles, and Philadelphia, where I come from. This was an intentional consequence of how the bill sponsors, largely liberals from Northwest, Midwest, and West, crafted legislation. And King understood, Democratic politicians acted more boldly on race issues in Alabama, Mississippi than New York and Massachusetts. There's a pressing need for liberalism in the North, which was truly liberal. So all I'm saying is, before we begin to blame the women, we have to go back to here, right? This ain't even that far. Go back to here and understand how, as men, we were still boys and we have yet to become men. I read the story and showed, I started off with the black intellectuals, how the black intellectuals are boys within the system because they know that we're being oppressed, and they know that there's racism, but they rather find a comfortable spot in it rather than speaking out against it. And then you have what happened during this time when we was asking the white man for rights. So in turn, when you are conquered men, you can in turn around and blame your women, because once the men are conquered, the women are vulnerable. And by nature, every group of women is going to follow that masculine presence that's in power. Because land acquisition and rights are created by men through logic and force, and they enforce and create laws and place their women and children in it. So now the dominant male structure of today's time is that white man, and that's who everybody serves until black men start to say, you know what, I think different. So I'll unshare my screen and I'll let my brother Moses come in. I know I've been super long-winded.
Now I got to go and back into the back of my mind, and I got to be devil's advocate because I got to get you sharp. I can't have you going onto the battlefield unprepared. So iron sharpens iron. In this role, like I've said many times before, I will be devil's advocate, which means I got to try to take down some of your points now so you can defend your points now and get sharp on your points and be able to tailor your points to some of the points that the other panelists might present. So if that's all right, I'll take the 2 points that you concluded with, and I'll just start there. It was a lot in there, but I'll just start there. The number 1 point, or the first point that I'll be looking at, is this: black intellectuals are the real betrayers. They got comfortable in the 60s civil rights. They started asking for the wrong things, and they were not positioning themselves with their politics into a space. Can you hear me? Oh, you probably muted yourself. Let me do this.
I can hear you.
Oh, okay. So the black intellectuals, I'll just do it the short way. They were cowards. They were cowards. And then number 2, those same cowards were asking, those conquered men were asking for rights from the alpha, or the dominant male in society, which was the white man or the white system. So those are the 2 points that I'll be looking at. First, the black intellectuals were cowards. I'm going to rebut that and say they were not cowards, but that they were in fact exercising a greater degree of strength, moral, ethical, and even moral. So yeah, moral can kind of be spiritual, ethical, right, and even political strength. So right. Moral, when it comes to, and remember, I'm just playing devil's advocate here. Some of these things, yes, right, sir. The moral integrity was not to be.
Let me say this. Go
ahead.
To the chat, yes, he's playing devil advocate because we're setting up a debate with these black conservatives. So, and this is why we came live today. So we were on a back chat with some of the brothers today. So we going live now. So he's basically playing their side right now. Hey, go ahead, Moses.
Yes, sir. So the intellectuals were too comfortable. Now I look at that paradigm and see the context that you're speaking towards. The Jim Crow, how do we come out of this? We got wars going on. A lot of the rights and privileges of our nation were being passed to the Polish and the Austrians and those who were really conflicted, in those battles with German, Scandinavia, all of those places up there in Europe, and those immigrants coming over and finding refuge in a place where America was not affording that same luxury to the people here. You see the expansion of those world wars from Africa to Asia and in Europe, and those privileges were extended to whites and not to blacks. So it was incumbent upon those black leaders who did have some form of land or some form of influence to be bold. Unfortunately, even at that time, they were outgunned. They were still outgunned. So demanding anything was falling upon the hard ears of the Southern Confederacy that was still alive and well. We have to remember that was still, the impact was still being felt from, what is that movie called? Wealth of a Nation? when they were looking at how the black man and the white woman's interactions would be detrimental to society as a whole. So all of these segregation attempts were the stronger adversary. Integration comes in with, in the late 40s or whatnot. I know the brother's going to say my history is wrong. Maybe it is. Maybe he can join the panel and correct us. But until he does, I'm saying that when integration came in, it was the counter without the violence. We didn't have the means to match violence with violence against that Southern Confederacy. So that's point number one, that it was a courageous thing to stand up, that trying to unite the black intellectuals or the African intellectuals, I don't know which term you rather prefer, descendants of slaves either. Um, and this is my great grandparents' age. This is when they were young and of age and voting. So it's still in our family bloodlines, very close, where they were taking a moral high ground. Now, the political high ground was like Martin Luther King Jr. going and talking to the president directly. I'll leave it at that. And then the economic high, and he also did conversations with the letters from Birmingham jail. As a black intellectual, Morehouse College, I am a Morehouse College alum, very educated on these type of conversations. They are hard conversations to have, even harder than convincing a Hebrew Israelite that there is no white Jesus coming down, parting the clouds with some damn angels or zombies to save us, but that there is a spirit inside of all of us that will be willing to stand up to the Roman Empire and tell them what thus saith the Lord. Anyway, we'll move forward. And then what was the last one? So morally,
Yeah, I got
politically,
you.
and economically was the third one.
I got you.
Economic expedience was one of our hardest things that we could get. We could not demand land. That was one of the things they was taking completely off of the table. So jobs was the next one. The poor people's march, the porters march, even the bridge over Selma were a lot of different instances where the party at the political party at the time was saying unions and being a part of a union will be your way of finding some form of protection for your contracts,
That's
your
why we fled
labor.
north. That's why we
And so,
fled
yeah.
north.
And so they tried that. And I think that those are good evidential points that we could talk back and forth on when it comes to them not being cowards and not all being comfortable, but trying to find amicable solutions that still progress the African American community. Then the second point, and this is, I won't be nearly as long winded on this one, but asking for those rights from the conquered men, asking for rights from the alpha or the dominant. And to that point, I do see some complicitness if the alpha male or the dominant male is what was attractive to our sisters. I would see that they were not betraying us in that sense, but in a sense, they were standing up. Which, so in this sense, just like I would give some kudos to the courage of those intellectual black leaders who stood in the faces of white supremacists, the Southern Confederacy, the presidents, the anti-unionists, all of those other races of folks enjoying an American privilege, those black leaders who stood in those faces and rallied and organized to make those changes happen. I would also give kudos on the second one to the black woman for standing up, even inside of her home, where it was abusive, where it was the alcoholism, where it was seeming dead end, and her looking to make herself or to empower herself with the agency to support her family through her own labor. So I would see that second argument, which is I don't give the onus to the black men being defeated though, and them having to seek the approval or the acceptance or even the permission. I give the power to the black woman for standing up. So in my own personal experience, a mother who had been with an abusive person, my oldest brother, who is not the same, we don't share the same dad, but that is still my 100% brother. That relationship was detrimental to her physical health, her emotional health. She was strong enough to get up and leave that man, and then found my dad, who accepted her with child and still produced a hell of a family, soldiers that is. And so that saying, that is a greater degree of strength for a woman to seek outside of the quote unquote taboo social norms of black woman be faithful and loyal unto death to a black man who is abusive of you. I would see that second point, but the first one, I don't think I can see that one. So There you
All right,
go. There's my two
all right,
cents, and I know you got to jump in. So go ahead.
all right. Here we go. Here we go. Now, I'll start off by saying this. What I said before. When you look at the dynamics of how this thing is played out, the white woman is not looking at her man have to go to any other man to get civil rights. The white woman is not looking to her man to say, hey, he raped me or he hurt me. How are you letting him just get away with this? This is the other way around. So we have to deal with the psychological effects on both sides. What does that do to the psyche of a black woman, knowing that she's not being protected by her man, knowing that she's thrust in the road to protect him from getting killed if he even speaks out against any type of atrocities that's happening within the community? And what does that do to the white woman, seeing the power that her man has garnered by controlling the psyche and the mindsets of other men? What did that do to her mind? So that's the first thing that we gotta address, that nobody addresses. It's the mere fact that see, I'm not gonna put the Stokely Carmichaels, the H. Rap Browns, the Dr. Kings, like I said, the Mega Evers, the Paul Robesons. I'm not gonna put them down because they were doing what they feel like they had to do at that time to elevate our people to, I guess, a better position than what it was other than going to war. So the problem that you had, Brother Moses, is you had a split within the black consciousness of that time. You had the Booker T. Washington thought process where he never spoke out again. He died in 1915 when Jim Crow or Plessy versus Ferguson was in full fledged. Like he never spoke out against any of that shit. He just said black people should be self-sufficient. We should work hard, do what we got to do, keep our head down, and maybe whites will accept us. Where Du Bois said, no, fuck no. He was basically the precursor to that civil rights thing. He was basically fighting for equality and civil rights for black people, where him graduating from fucking Harvard and then getting a job in 1896, I believe, here in Philadelphia at the University of Penn, where he can only teach, Brother Joyce, resting the step more than the cause, right? Be balanced and live with it. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm dressing. Well, I'm good. I'm trying to get into both, but I'm just, I'm just segueing from both sides, Brother Art. So now he gets a job at the University of Pennsylvania, but he can only teach to black people. This was in 1896, if I'm not mistaken. Here in Philadelphia, I remember Philadelphia had a big boule group. This is where the first fraternity was created here by Henry Minton in 1906. So, Philadelphia had probably the largest black population for a long time, here in Philadelphia. So, this is where Richard Allen and Absalom Jones started the church, and all the different, there's a lot of history here in Philadelphia. But it goes back to what I said. We were still conquered. We were still decultured. We still had their names. We still had, and this is where I'm going, we still spoke their language. So now after Booker T dies, you have the rise of Garvey. And Garvey basically looked at it and said, man, fuck that, man. I love you, Booker T, man. You was my idol and everything, but this white man is never going to give us a fair shake or love us the way that we should be loved. So now we have the rise of the radical black or the black militant or thinking outside the box. Just the mere fact of a black man thinking as a man, independent of what the white man said, would be radical. So he was automatically radical. The Elijah Muhammad's radical, the radical way of thinking. Any thought of black nationalism, of having a black identity, independent of the white power structure, is radical. And it was always frowned upon. And we got 100 years of history today to see that the civil rights groups, the radical Christians, they got rid of it. When you look at the Mega Evers, blew his back out, right in front of his wife as he's getting out the car. Dr. King put a bullet through his neck. The whole host of other pastors in the South that was radical Christians, they put them down. But the ones that would go and feel like they should go and try to get legislation passed and try to do things so-called diplomatically the way the white man would want it to be, that was white friendly. They was able to move around with full autonomy. They was able to move around. But the black nationalists, they put them down. The history has shown it. They got rid of any thought of a black man coming out of his boy-like mind state. And so now, me speaking of these black intellectuals, I'm not, well, maybe I am disrespecting them, but they've been conditioned because they're educated by the system. And the system is going to always educate the descendants of slaves, especially the males, to be docile and to be boys within the system. You cannot be a man and be a black man in the white male patriarchal dominant society, because you have to do what I tell you to do. You get rights when I tell you you have rights. You operate the way I tell you that you operate. You go to my institutions. You do not move independently of me, because this is a marketplace and we built this market off of you, and we have nowhere else to send you. You get out of line, we can't send you out of the country. This is your home. So now you go into politics and you become a so-called black conservative. And you believe that taking office and getting into certain political structure, that you can change things. But history has shown, history has shown that that doesn't work, because when you got Thurgood Marshall as the first Supreme Court justice, we know that he was operating controlled by the government, by the FBI. We know that he was infiltrated. We know that going to these universities and these Masonic universities and being taught, you're being educated, always been the biggest threat. Right. And see, Aaron Collins, what is an intelligent black man? An intelligent black man is not graduating from Harvard. An intelligent black man is thinking from a mindset of his own, outside of the box of what white supremacy has told you to think. Intelligent black man is thinking for himself and creating for himself. Intelligent black man is thinking of black nationality and not getting rights from another man. That's not intelligence. That's black servitude still. And this is what has happened to our people. So now we join these political parties and we're connected to two wings connected to the same bird. Where first we was under Republicans, but under the Republican Party and under these constitutions, under the Republican Party and under these constitutions, they allowed public hangings. Under the Republican Party and under the Constitution, they allowed Jim Crow. Under the Republican Party and under this Constitution, they allow our cities to be burned down. Under the Public Party and under the Constitution, they allow Ku Klux Klan-like laws to come into play. Under the Constitution of laws that were supposed to protect us. So we know that going into the political structure never worked. So then we go, when you come to the 60s, we transfer over from the Republican Party to the Democratic Party. And as I read to y'all, under the Johnson administration, oh, he gave us some more rights. Oh, okay, you niggers, you can vote. Yeah, you can vote. Oh, yeah, you can sit next to Bob, but you can't control your own economics. Not as a group. Oh, no, we would never have that. You can never control your own economics as a group, niggers. And then he thought that Elijah Muhammad guy, oh, he's public enemy number one. He's a problem. We have to get rid of him. We have to get rid of him and the Marcus Garveys. Oh, but that black church, them black ministers, oh, they can preach all day. They can preach all day. That Dr. King, though, is a problem. He's starting to run his mouth a little too much. He's starting to talk about the Vietnam War. Matter of fact, he's starting to talk about the poor man's campaign and having a march for the poor people. Oh, we got to get rid of him. We got to kill him. We got to kill his brother, and we got to kill his mother. And we got to send an example to all the other black intellectuals that even think of being a man or going against the grid or thinking outside the box. This is what's going to happen to you, Andrew Jackson. This is what's going to happen to you. A lot of our different leaders. So we became complicit with institutional racism that we knew existed. But instead of us speaking out against it after the 60s, going into the 70s and 80s, we just found a comfortable spot in it. And they took the Amos Wilsons and people like that, and they put them on the back burner. But you don't even hear about them. And they put all these other people out in front, your Jesse Jacksons and all these different people that was complicit in keeping you in a sunken place. This is what they did. Because a black man within this system can never, ever, ever, ever be a man and think for himself. So a lot of the pro-black men that we find out about later on, we wonder why your black ministers never spoke of them in the church. We wonder why. A lot of these black ministers, a lot of these black intellectuals that when we get conscious, Edward Scobie and different Dr. John Henry Clark, how come your pastors and them never mentioned them? How come they never had their pictures on the wall? You ever think about that? They had the same pictures of people that was complicit in keeping you in a sunken place. And like I said, I want y'all to remember in this chat room, any thought of black nationalism, of creating something independent of a white mindset was destroyed. That's all I'm saying. I rest on that. You there, Moses? Yeah, well, until we come back, I'll keep speaking. I don't know. He might have went to bathroom or something. Yeah, but we gotta stop playing these games. Like you got what's the brother's name? You got what the hell is his name? Cornel West, right? Cornel West speak all this black shit. Cornel West speak all this black shit, but at the end of the day, he got a white wife. He talking all this black shit and what we need to do and how we need to develop, but he go home to that white woman. He never saw the value in the black woman or the value in the black family and developing that black family. He doesn't see that. So how can I take anything that he says of value? Okay, he's a black intellectual, but that doesn't make him intelligent. Black intelligence is black intact black culture, reinstituting black culture. I keep trying to tell you, these people, Michael Eric Dyson and them, they don't represent black nationality. I'll read these names off. These people, Michael Cornel West, Michael Eric Dyson, Henry Louis Gates, the Hoover Institution. These people do not represent the black nationality. They actually frowned upon black nationality. They are integrating you. They are further integrating you into a society that never accepted you. And this is why you don't have no rights. Yeah, Cornel West is married to a white woman. So we got to stop playing these games. Like, they don't fool me. Just think of this. Dr. King wasn't married to a white woman. Malcolm X wasn't married to a white woman. Paul Robeson wasn't married to a white woman. But W.E.B. Du Bois. You there, Moses?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah,
so I'm gonna pick up.
I'll wrap it up real quick. All I'm saying is we've been bamboozled into looking at the white educated standards on what intelligence is or what intellectualism is. The only intellectualism in America is black nationality and the black identity outside of this identity that's been forced on us. If we don't develop a black identity, we're going to always be a boy within this system. As Dr. Amos Wilson teaches us. I rest on that.
Cool. So a quick little divergence. I just wanted to pick up on that second point one more time, the conquered man asking for rights and that woman moving to a more dominant man. I think here they're still going to look at it and say, well, George, I hear all of these things that you're saying, the externalities, the conditions of the black man. I hear the tactics of the white supremacist. I hear a lot of different facets that you're bringing into the conversation. I think they'll use the word passionate, and they might also use, very knowledgeable on a lot of the historical points that you're bringing in, and they are all relevant. But I think what they'll try to do is continue to pigeonhole it into a conversation just about the black woman and her role and her agency. So I was on mute, but I did find one that may kind of speak to it a little bit
Okay.
more directly. So you brought up Marcus Garvey, right? And so
Right.
another key point that might exercise a bit of more directness is one of his wives, his second wife actually, Amy Garvey, Amy Jaquez Garvey or something like that.
Right.
Um, where was I at? I was at historyisaweapon.com. And
Right.
if you wanted to go to it and take a quick look at it, but the woman is phenomenal. A lot of her publishing, journalism, things that she was doing for the UNIA, as well as she attended the Fifth Pan African Congress in 1945. Um, and she wrote 1963 book Garvey and Garveyism, which kind of enlightens a heck of a lot of folks. So we can talk about it because its relevance is in some of the things that she was saying, and you'll hear them directly. So one of the quotes that I pulled out: the exigencies or the right nowness of the present age require that women take their places beside their men. White women are rallying, dot, dot, dot. I'm going to skip down. White men have begun to realize that as women are the backbone of the home, so can they, by their economic experience and their aptitude for details, participate effectively in guiding the destiny of the nation and the race. So I wanted to bring that one out first. Women stepping up outside of the home, and how others, black conservatives, how those who are in a position of black male privilege, when they look at a submissive woman, the role of a woman is supposed to be in the household. Oh, she's supposed to be cooking meals. She's supposed to be taking care of the kids. She's supposed to be passing along or disseminating the information while I go out and I lead the political, spiritual, and economic battle for our family and for our community. No, Amy says that the woman, even at this time, was stepping to her rightful place beside her man. She also goes in to say she prefers to be a breadwinner than a half starved wife at home, which I also believe is relevant, right? Because we were dealing with conditions of less. We were dealing with, a smaller salary for the equal labor. They weren't paying black folks the same wage that they were willing to pay the Italians and the other folks. They weren't even afforded the same roles. You might work in this coal mine, but you'll be shoveling crap. You might join the army, but you'll be shoveling crap. You might work on the train lines or on the docks, but you'll be shoveling crap. None of the very high skilled labor and none of the high skilled training that was afforded to some of those others. So that meant lower wages that they were bringing home. That meant smaller homes. Like I go back to my grandfather and grandmothers, they had like 13 kids living in like a two-bedroom half shack, it looked like. When I go back for family reunions, I get it. My grandmother always went fishing and her fishing could feed everybody there, but that was a lot of kids and a lot of grandkids. And for the men to have lived off of reduced wages and the women to have been subjugated to the home was just not a conducive situation for them to compete. So she says half starved wife at home. And then another one, even so, women of the darker races are sallying forth to help their men establish a civilization according to their own standards. And that really brushes right into the face of white supremacy or the dominant alpha male mentality. So while they might look at her and start calling her the bed wench, she was trying to find, appeasement and approval of a more dominant person, a more dominant faction, a more dominant system that was available for her. They want to call her and pigeonhole her into a welfare case. They want to pigeonhole her into a role of betrayal, but we're saying the exact opposite, that our strength and even her strength, even coming from a legacy of matrilineal power, is still strong, not cowardice. It is still vibrant. It's still in her. And what we tried and what black men may have tried to suppress inside of that black woman, the natural thing was for it to erupt, like shaking a soda until it finally blows over. The carbonated juices or whatever it is inside of the soda that cause it to erupt, we can say that that is just the ancestral spirit or that divine spirit inside of that black woman that was going to be awakened. She says, lastly, the wide awake woman, when she's referring to the African woman. And this is still at the time when black women were deciding what would be their role. So they may have had external influences from the feminist movement. They may have had men going off to war and fight battles instead of taking care of home. They may have had, you know, that excuse of alcoholism and distraction from this family is too big for us to live off of a small income. But what we really should recognize here and what's problematic for them in your argument, what's problematic for them is how are they going to overcome the black woman's strength that was naturally inside of her that was being repressed? How do they not acknowledge her humanity and her human spirit? How do they get by saying her role is supposed to be subordinate to a man? So in order to continue sharpening, after I've said that, I would like to throw out a couple of quick questions just to keep it sharp. Define a head of household. Also, are black women capable of being the head of a household? And then three, are black men slacking on their responsibility as head of a household? So define the head of a household. Is that something just for men? Is that something that the black woman usurped from the home? Was that head of household title and role? And then did black men kind of enable the women to greater empowerment by trying to deprive them, or was it just the black woman? Let me stop there and just leave those questions as they stand. Um, what is the head of the household? How do you define it? Is the black woman capable of being the head of a household, and are black men slacking on being the
I'm gonna say,
head of the household?
I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say this, and I think our people is different from the white man. Our culture is different. I think even though we've been robbed of a thorough knowledge of stuff, a lot of who we are is still part of our DNA, and we still act it out. This is why we don't operate well within this white male patriarchal structure. This is why we're so forgiving and so loving, but just not towards each other. We are not them, and we can't even we behave like them at times, but we still fail at it. Head of household, I think when you deal with African or even Aboriginal people, because we know that the land rights of Aboriginal people went through the womb of the woman. And this is why you had to go through the man to get the father to get permission to marry. I'll say this: head of the household is equal, but is an equality within head of the households amongst our culture. The man is the head because he's the provider, protector. But see, that sounds contradictory what I just said. But the man protects the home, but the woman, listen, I'm married. The woman runs the home, period. Dad, can I get some cookies? Did you ask your mother first? Because she's running the intricacies within the home. Even when she worked, she's still operating and controlling those things, man. I mean, when you have an intact structure. Now, head of household within the black culture, I just think that we got different, there's equality, but there's different roles. If somebody run up in this motherfucker, I'm gonna get up out that bed and go handle that. But then there's certain things that might go on with my daughters that my wife is gonna go handle that. So our culture, we can't even look at us like them. What is head of the household compared to the black family, and head of the household compared to the white family in the white power structure? Two totally different cultures that we've been forced to live vicariously through, but we still fell at it because we still look. The reason why we blame our women for a lot of shit, because we don't even realize it by nature. We still look to our women for a lot of things. We always have. Study African cultures. Study African cultures. We always look to our women for guidance and wisdom for certain things, and our women look for us for guidance, protection. This is what it is, man. So now when we don't understand our culture that's been taken away from us, and we see the debauchery in our community, we in turn blame our women, but we don't realize that we're looking to our women because we always have, and our women always look to us. We didn't have a system where we just oppressed our women. Study African culture. Oh, that's all you got to do. The first gods were aspects of women, the feminine principle, venerated. We understood that the woman gave birth to our purpose. We understood this shit. We lost all of that because we lost all of our culture, but it still resonates within the DNA. So the woman is going to get the blame for certain shit, but no, listen, the households are even. The households are even. We are the protectors of the home because we're the seed planters. but we got different jobs within the home. What was the other question that you asked? Because I don't I forgot the other question, Moses.
So I was just I like how you rephrased it though. The household from the lens of the majority white dominance, the Western philosophical view of a household versus the black family, and I like how you rephrased it. But I was saying from their lens, they're still going to look at it as a misogynistic.
Right.
The household is still the black man earns the money, the white woman, the black man takes care of the black woman takes care of the kids, and that the distance that was created from her and the household through labor and her politics and her ambitions, all of those things, I think that's what they're using as their base for betrayal. And so
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just
yeah.
kind of wanted
Well,
you to redefine it and make sure your
okay, okay,
definitions were
okay. I got
sharp.
you. But they're using that. They're using that as a way to weaponize. They're weaponizing that as a way to further divide the black family through media, news outlets, TV, movies, and all these different things. They're creating conditions within the minds of the people to make the woman believe that she has to live this way or have this, or she has to have, she has to compete against her man. But then they also have a crack system set up and a felony system set up and all kinds of different things set up in order to keep that nuclear family from perpetuating itself and developing. That's a system set in place by these groups in order to keep our family structure from coming intact. Because you understand something. What builds nations? Families. It starts one family at a time. So we got to work together to try to put back what they spent generations destroying. That was the black family and us understanding our roles to each other. So the black woman has to understand being a stay-home mom is a fucking job. Taking care of the home, taking care of the kids. So, but what they did was, and I'll answer to what you said, they fucked the economy up to the point where you have to have both people working. But now you might get a brother that might acquire a felony at 18 and he can't get an adequate job. Like there's a whole lot of factors that come into play when you're dealing in the system, in this demonic system that oppressed us, where a black man can't be a man, he has to be a boy. This is what happens. But being a single mom or a stay-home mom is a fucking job. I would never. Let me tell you something, man. When I had my son, for a while when he first was born, I remember my wife was working and I stayed home for like the first year. And I was taking care of him. Man, that shit ain't no fucking joke. So I can just imagine a black woman at home with 4 kids. While you at work. I mean, you wouldn't even be able to do the things you do as a man, if you don't have the other half. The woman gives birth to your purpose. Like we lost our way in understanding what our roles is within the house. So now the woman has become the man and the man has become the woman. You become docile and you look into your woman for strength and guidance, where it should be a balance. She should be looking to you for strength and guidance, and you should be looking for her to build you up when this cruel world beats you down. We don't even know what that means no more. Let alone most of the women is doing it on their own. But that's another part of the destructive system. So these are the things that we got to understand. But people think they condition the woman now to think, man, I don't need nothing from no man. I ain't taking nothing from no man. Staying at home and while your husband at work, that's some simp shit. Oh, woman, you weak. That's some weak. A woman to tell her she crazy. You trust that nigga? Or then you'll hear dudes say, your wife don't work. Nigga, you taking care of this woman like that? Like, nigga, like we got the game fucked up. Because we looking at the standards that the elites have created through media. They seeking to destroy all nuclear family. But like I said, like we asleep at the wheel. We asleep at the wheel. We're not getting it, man. Go ahead, Moses. Tell me if I left.
I just
If
point
I
out a
left
couple
something
of
out.
things in the let me point out a couple of things in the chat. People who are saying my assessment was all the way off. Um, Please keep in mind that I'm trying to play devil's advocate for a thought
Right.
process that I'm foreign to it. I don't think like them. I'm just trying to listen to what my brother is saying and bring up other points of contention so
Of
that
what
when
they
he
would
goes
say.
into the battle, he was just like my assessments were off. And then the other dude said that my history was wrong. I just said enlighten us because we're on a journey of sharpening iron that we might be able to present this to some brothers who, in my mind, they're absolutely lost. They've lost their way on how to treat a black woman. They don't even feel responsible for the positive treatment of a black woman or the black home. Many of them have decided that they no longer even want to create black babies. I've even heard one go as far as saying, throw the damn black babies off a cliff if they come from, Pookies and Rayberries or, unplanned, whatever it is, circumstances. And so having these conversations are not only important because they help those people hear the other perspective, but they help their listeners hear this perspective, because that shit has to stop. I think one of the things that Brother George was working towards.
Real quick, Moses. Somebody said in the chat room, should he clean and cook and take care of the kids while she's at work? Yeah, I did it. I did it for a whole year. I still do it now at times. Yeah, absolutely. Why not? It's my house, my children. Why should? Yeah, absolutely. Listen, me and my wife is equal, man. My wife has equal say so. What it is, sometimes as a man, if I put my foot down and exert my authority as a man, she backs down at times. But it's times when she goes and she says certain things and she gets my attention, because that's my other half. We have children. We've been married a long time. I respect her enough to know that if my wife is saying something to me, I know that she has the best interests of our family, because I understand what partnership is. So absolutely, I cook and clean. I ain't got no problem with that. Go ahead, Moses.
And even the cooking and cleaning, like, Jesus Christ, can my wife enter into a contract? Can she get a student loan? Can she get a car if she wanted a loan? Like, if you are still tripping off of, well, I'm not cooking and cleaning, then you're absolutely not ready for a revolutionary mind state. You're not ready for the woods. You're not ready for Pan-Africanism. There are just a lot of different societies where you just won't fit, because you'll still be waiting to be enabled or someone to take care of you. That's what I do believe. That comes from Moses Jenkins right there. Anyway, let's keep moving forward. Another one of them was bringing out, who is it? Aset and Asar. So Kemetic wisdom. And I kind of brought that out earlier on the back channel, talking about some of the matrilineal societies that exist even back in history and even today. I think it was the Meroitic kingdom, so ancient Kush, and the mineral rich land ownership, properly being managed. They had iron surpluses where the men could work in the iron. It was very, very agrarian, so the women could actually take care of the land ownership, and that enabled global trade. And we see what's happened since then. They established a network of cities that supported each other. Cultural contributions, you can see it in their art, it's still in their temples. But matrilineal societies, if they ask, we do know that there is a legacy for success there. There are still matrilineal societies today. I believe something like India and China still has a couple of them, or outside of China, Scandinavia, the Navajo Indians. Yeah, the Hopi people, or Hopi, Native American culture. Also, I mean, and so people want to look at a very small lens of the last 400 years of white supremacist domination here in America, without realizing the thousands and thousands of years and agrarian years of other cultures and how they were able to contribute to the overall success. I think somebody also brought it up with the divine child. So the divine child comes through that woman, that womb comes from that woman. So I think these are the points that we can continue to keep harping on, that let them know that there is a value that they are trying to undermine, and that it's really just dismissive or disingenuous for them to say that this is the man's world only, and not a woman's space to live.
Most people don't even know what these matrilineal society. When you deal with Native American culture, you understand why they did what they did, why the land rights went through the womb of a woman. When you understand that the land rights went through that woman, and why these oppressors came to seek to marry those women and have a child, so that child can have the rights to the land, so he will have a Native American mother but a white father. Because when you put the land rights through the womb of the woman, that will force the man, without even having a law, to respect this woman. See, we don't understand. Like we lost. We totally lost. That will force the man to venerate his woman, and that will force the man to die and protect his woman, and to die and protect the culture, because the black woman is the black man's culture. She gives birth to his purpose, and the land rights it goes through her. So now, before you even get to my woman, you got to come through me. Before you even marry my daughter, I got to approve it as a man. That's what kept the societies going. That's what kept the barbaric shit from the societies. We put certain powers and certain land rights within the woman, and then we protected that. So I'm lost as some of our people, man. Like I don't understand how we don't get this. We was always physically stronger than a woman, but when you put these things in a woman, it taught you to venerate your woman and put her on a higher plane or a higher level. Because the woman represented the soil, the woman represented the land acquisition. The woman was your lifeline, period. So nigga, you even look at my woman, motherfucker, you might lose your life. We need to see some of the women. You need to see some of our women where. Not over here. You better take that shit across the street. We don't even know what that means no more. Because now we got a woman, we got our woman out in the forefront. And I told y'all, in America, the Negro woman is the most accessible woman in the country. Anybody can fuck a black woman. She's not protected because she stands at the doorstep of the community, not the men. And that's not just the men's fault. These are things that's been systematically done to our people. So we got to have these conversations. So now when you have these black conservatives, they believe, wait a minute, who was that? It's the woman you know who's the child lineage is right. Through the woman you know who the child's lineage is, and through that womb was the land rights. So you're not just protecting the womb, you're protecting the whole culture. And the whole culture is my woman because she gives birth to my purpose. That's why everything went through her. That's why we venerated her. I carried the seed of forever inside of me, but she gave birth to the nations. Period.
It's a plan.
Yeah.
So I think we touched on quite a few big points tonight. Hopefully that helped prepare you, and hopefully I did my role the best I could. For those in the chat who were not edified through this, so black women and black men in the chat, we'll continue to try to bring that information, or whenever he has me on, I'll keep trying. Playing devil's advocate is important for me, for my brother George, because he does boldly go onto a lot of the platforms where I'll just listen in. I'm not the one to argue with these damn dudes. I'll be like, man, if that's how you feel, that's this, but it does take that.
I go to war with them.
You go to war. I'm like, shit, everybody can't pick up the sword. I'm sitting, look, and I'll be in the chat like battling them. They almost call me trolling or whatever it is, but I just don't agree. I'll be like, look, dude, I read too much to have these conversations with these dudes. These dudes don't want to talk about Taharka. They don't want to, they don't want to talk about things that actually matter when it comes to military science. They just want to say, well, the black folks won't win. I'm like, well, what do you think happened when the Roman Empire invades? What do you think really happens? They want to what did they say? Put your head in the ground like an ostrich. I think I was watching that on Jabari's. The ostrich puts his head in the ground, to avoid whatever it was. I was like, look, man, if that is a reference to the African-American man's position here in America right now, I still believe that you're wrong. There are a lot of men still walking upright doing what they do. You just might not agree with their tactics. Some of them are the black conservatives. I hate that I don't agree with them on everything. I don't hate that I don't agree with them on everything. I don't agree with them on everything, but I do believe that they're still trying to walk with their head upright. I just think that it's upright the white man's ass. That's where it is to me.
I want to address two things in the chat that two of my subscribers spoke. I'll get to you, Water Sniper, second. I'll go with Big Game James. He said all matrilineal societies was conquered. But let me answer that by saying this. This is very easy. With the European expansion after 1492, as they begin to travel throughout the different corners of the planet, from going into Papua New Guinea, going into all throughout Western Africa and sub-Saharan Africa, coming to the Americas. They conquered all of these different groups through expansions. So through European expansion. So it wasn't just the matrilineal societies, it was all societies, as history has shown us, where they went to different places other than some of the Arab societies that they couldn't conquer, some of the Arab empires. So they came to the Americas and they conquered the Aboriginal people here. They went into the Melanated Islands and they conquered the Aboriginal people there. They came down into West Africa, going into Angola. The Portuguese going into Angola, and you had so much infighting going on in Western Africa. They was able to infiltrate with goods, selling different goods and different things. Going into Northern Africa, so they conquered during their expansion through the Papal Bulls a lot of different things. Now, Water Sniper said, I speak on if the black man is so conquered and at the bottom, and the white female is at the top of the current society, how and why is the white woman laying down with black men and having all these mixed babies, as so many people say? Now, I addressed. All right, my comment is going off of what I'm hearing around some parts of the black sector. Right, I agree, Water Sniper. I made a video about this on the rise of the mulatto and what they are pushing. I don't want to get too far into that because that's going to segue into a whole different conversation on America and America's way through capitalism to take away nationalities. They're now in this new way of forging this new world government, or this one world government. They're forging a multiculturalism society where in America we used to be splintered off into different groups. Now they're forcing us all together. Where if you went to France or certain parts of Europe, African men been fucking white women for 400 years, since the 1500s. They've been doing that. But in America, which was a marketplace in the capitalist society, they allowed different nationalities to come to America. But now they're doing away with all those different groups and they're forging a multiculturalism society of black men and women who have apparently betraying our community. I mean, yeah, I agree with you, AM1. And AM, I got to get you on the next show when we come on, because I like your bill. Definitely got to get you on, my brother. Yeah, they forging this multiculturalism society. This is why you have gentrification and they're moving us into all different communities. This is why you have white nationalists going to universities and having white civil rights marches and all these different things, because they know what the elites are doing within this capitalism structure and how they're moving it forward through multiculturalism society. They're doing away with different so-called ethnic groups and nationalities. They're forging us all together. But I'll do another live stream on that where I can really break that shit down the way I want to break it down, because it's too complex to break it down right now. Yeah, but AM1, we got to get you on here. But as we begin to wind down, Moses, you got anything you want to say?
Let me see. So, yeah, absolutely an honor to come onto the platform and help build with you. The perspectives that I threw out there, once again, that is just the little history that I've read. I probably didn't get all the dates and everything correct. Like, to some people that, you got to be on. It was May 1st of, 1961. It wasn't 62, the Homestead Act. But I thought it was important for us to start at the Homestead Act, because land and the acquisition of land is the thing that gives you a sense of protection, that wealth, 160 acres. By the end of that, there were 80 million acres. According to the historical data I had to cite earlier, but I didn't put my notepad down, 80 million acres were disseminated. So that's like 500,000 acres per contract, and African Americans were not entitled to that. So that is something that was a driver. How do we get land? How do we get that land? And then once African Americans did start to make those moves, what happened? It was the Red Scare. It was politics. We're talking about men being the leaders of the politics and the spiritual systems that govern culture. So women might be in the house, and it might be the traditional role for women to take care of the home and to maintain culture there, but men being on the forefront of that. And did women stand up and say, no, I'm going to take my place beside my man, and we are now going to work in tangent? And how do they define betrayal? That's another question. What is the betrayal that they are referring to? I believe that they're still talking about joining with the feminist movement, that they're going to continue to say that they were co-opted by the white supremacist system. White males and white women had solicited their vote and then pulled apart the different reasons for being in the world. I mean, I listed mine as being, the economic advantage. You listed some of yours as being to get out of a broken home, or, alcoholism and things at the house, amongst a number of conditions that were there at the house that they decided to go off. And then we eventually come to this agreement that it was a power dynamic that had to happen. Something inside of that black woman could no longer be repressed. Right. Is that a sign of betrayal, or is that a sign of the strength that could not be held back? So I think we found some shit on ours. Yeah, some agreeing points. We found some points to agree with on our end. Will that be enough to handle them? I don't know. Maybe you got some more research you want to put in, or maybe you have another build with another one of the brothers like Brother Am1, and then y'all continue to build, because I do know that that audience is not easily convinced. They are well-to-do. They're not the Pookie and Ray Rays, so we can't just tell them, nigga, get off your ass and turn the video game off. You're going to have to hit them with some numbers at some point. So other than that, they were
yeah, I got
straight, though.
something. Yeah, I got something for him. I'm just going in today. I ain't bring out what I wanted to bring out, but I think that I'm gonna get a thing with me, you, AM1, get Aaron Collins on, and Information Man, and we're gonna build.
Did you see Information Man sent us something in the back chat lines too, saying I think he's going live tonight, but
Yeah,
he'll try to get us on this week.
Yeah, because I sent them the link. But I just want, yeah, something that you said, it was something inside that black woman. I just want us to know that our culture is not their culture. We've been forced to live vicariously through them by having their name. This is why Elijah Muhammad said, change your name. Because every time you say your name, every time you look in the mirror and you look at yourself and you say that name, like you're resonating these people. Read the black men and black women. Please, we have different roles that complement each other, but I am a black woman and there are things I can't do. But the sister says she don't agree that black men and black women are equal. We have roles that complement each other, but I'm a black woman. It's just things that I can't do. You're right. And there's things as a black man that we can do. We are equals because we come through that womb. I carry the seed. We bring forth life together. Life cannot come into this reality without the man and the woman, naturally. We are each other's equal. We are one. This is why when we get married, they say you become one. And out of that one, you create a life. So no, you are my equal. Just because I'm physically stronger than you does not make me anything above you. And I have to implore this into the man, because we got to get out of this white thinking process that, no, we are this, because we began to oppress our women the same way the white man did. No, your woman is your equal, but we have different roles. And it's hard. I know it's hard to get out of that mindset and that way of thinking. It's very difficult. But our culture was not like these people, man.
I think that's one of the strongest points you can make right there too. We don't have the same culture, and they're trying to look at it through the same ethnocentric, Western lens, without actually acknowledging the human power, the human capital of that woman, what strength she has, what courage she has. And so I think they're trying to pigeonhole the conversation to being some Sharkeisha doesn't deserve my respect or my protection, rather than acknowledging the power and the essence of the black woman. And everybody says, well, it's not every woman is a bad woman or a good seed, or all. They want to do that, the semantic argument, rather than saying, look, what you're doing right now is you want to be the oppressor of the black woman. You're taking black male leadership and making that a form of oppression of the black woman, and that black woman stood up to that oppression, and that's where your real problem lies. I think that's a powerful argument right there.
And the brother said Africa wasn't all Disney. I agree. And then another person said that saying equals is misleading. No, it's not misleading. So you got to understand something. We have different roles. Like I said, if somebody came into this house right now, I'm gonna tear some shit up. It's based on merit and both genders, right? What I'm saying is we have different rules. Like in certain African cultures, before the men can even go to war, they had to get permission from the wives. The wives gave permission. Before they could plant their seed inside a woman, they had to get permission, because the woman was giving birth or bearing your seed. So what I'm trying to tell y'all is our culture as African or Aboriginal or whatever we want to call was not the same as these Neanderthals. It just wasn't the same. And the reason why we're not flourishing within this culture, because we are not these people. We still have that mentality deep down within that DNA structure. We still have it. So what I'm saying is, told his queen to shut up. Even the Pharaoh told his queen to shut up, or I would have hands like he would become the big pawns. Listen, each culture had different things, but for the most part, we seen each other as equals. And this is why when you study land acquisitions and certain things, why it went through the woman, why the first guys was venerated as a woman, and different things, why things was called the feminine and the masculine. And like I said, before I could bring life into this world, it has to come through the womb of a woman. that I become one with. My job is to protect. My job as the seed planter is to provide sunlight and water from the family that I create, or from the soil that I plant the seed in. And that soil will forever give me nourishment. So we got to understand and take this thing back to nature and understand how I operate. I know it's hard to see things that way because we don't understand. Black men are at least, yeah, right. I agree with that, big gang. We don't understand because our minds is conditioned to see things through the lens of this culture. We can, a lot of my brothers can't even begin to understand what I'm saying. They like, man, this dude is called crazy. Black men that expect submissive women. Okay, that's you. Right. So the thing is, I always say when black men begin to stand up and do all the things that they're supposed to do, the right woman will show up. The right woman in your life will show up, and some of the women that's out of control will get right. Those that won't, then guess what? They'll fall down by the wayside. They'll fall down by the wayside. But the woman is your equal. The woman is the one that makes you whole. That's why you become evenly yoked. Y'all become one family. Yeah, I might stand out at the front because I'm the protector. But that very body or that very consciousness that I'm protecting gives birth to my purpose. That's what makes her my equal. That's what makes her my equal. Book my duty, Omega Dreads, CR Royalty, AM1, Art Nasal, Water Sniper. What makes her my equal is, yeah, I stand out at the forefront. I'm the protector and the provider, but she gives birth to my purpose. She is the one that gives birth to my purpose. And that's what makes us evenly yoked. We have different jobs, but we're equal nonetheless. I don't have the right to put my hands on her. She don't have the right to put her hands on me when we're operating in our natural way of thinking.
So let me get you one more just to something to sleep or big brother George. Here's a statement that I want you to kind of either combat or go in on. A black woman today only needs entrepreneurship or a job, a gun, and a dildo. There's your question.
They say that one more time. A black woman only need a job.
She only needs her job, her gun, and her dildo. Not a black man.
Well, that's what this demonic capitalistic white male patriarchal society would do, because it's out to destroy any thought of a black family, because intact black families will automatically generate black nationalism. So they cannot have intact black families, because once you have intact black families, black boys will be raised to start thinking independently. He will start to think like his father. He will start to think independently out of the system. So they're going to destroy the nuclear family. They're going to continue to destroy and tell the black woman. They have to see the system is set up, Moses, that the system is set up to keep a black man inconsistent and condition a black woman to believe that she don't need her man. They condition the black woman to believe that she doesn't need the very man that controls the faunas that's supposed to go into her womb to create life. The very aspect of what she came here for. She has a womb in two bosoms when she gives birth to preserve life. She has that counterpart that looks just like her, that comes from that same culture, and they condition her to believe that she does not need him. That's nothing but a demonic force. That's nothing but a demonic force. And we got to understand the way what's being operated here. I don't need nothing but a job. Who's giving you the job? Is that person from your ethnic group, from your culture, from your people? If not, that's a declaration of war. Who are you to give my women, my people a job? Who the fuck are you? How are you even get in position to even give my woman a job? My woman has a gun from who? Where did she get that gun from? A dildo? Who's creating and providing that? See, these are the questions as men, as the ones that stands at the doorstep of the community, that we gotta ask. Who's giving my wife a fucking job? See, this is the shit that I deal with. My wife got a job from who? My wife got a firearm from who? See, these are the questions the white man gonna ask, because remember what I said. The white woman is not watching the white man cow down to the black man to get any civil rights or any voting rights. The white woman is not watching the white woman is not watching the black man say, Hey, white man, I'm giving your woman a motherfucking job, nigga. I'm giving her a goddamn dildo, nigga. I'm giving her a gun. No, it's the other way around. It's the other way around. So the black man, if he has any self-love and pride and dignity, will have to turn around and say, who the fuck is giving my woman a goddamn job? God damn it, if it ain't me. Because if it's any other man giving your woman a job, he should be getting your head at night. He should be the one fucking your woman, not you. Because he's the one providing for her. You not. That's too real for some of these niggas out here. He should be the one. He should be the one enjoying your woman. He the one giving her the gun, the dildo, and the fucking job. And if, as a black man, if you ain't angry about that, then something wrong. That's a declaration of fucking war. Right.
Yes, sir. I brought those out. You know what I'm saying? The job is the economic security that a lot of people are looking for. The firearm is that form of protection, whether it's spiritual or even psychological, even physical protection. And then intimacy. Are they going to be selfish or are they going to be a part of the collective? So those three, we can use the physical forms, but I don't like to think so physical and so plain. But the job, the firearm, and the dildo are all representatives of economic security, of protection, and then also of shit. What's the last one? Oh, intimacy. Whether she'll be a part of the collective or whether she'll be INDEPEDE. You know the rest.
And I'll say this before we go: the white man, brother AM1 has the resources to provide all the things that we just spoke about. We're not in a position to give our women these resources. And this is how he's able to manipulate our women into believing that she doesn't need us. And I keep saying, I'm not sounding sexist when I say this, but women are going to follow the masculine principle that's in charge, that's in power. So when we understand this as black men, if we know we lacking the resources and he hasn't, we got to go take it from him. You got to take it from him. You got to find ways to make it work and take it from him. Yeah, but we see different races of women working for the so-called white male business, but they don't sleep because they have an intact culture, number one, and a lot of these ethnic water sniper, you got to understand something. A lot of these other groups come here as immigrants, and they don't join the American dream. They do business with it. They do business with the American dream to build up their culture and their people, and they send that money back home. We are the descendants of the slaves that was here. We are the people that's been decultured. We don't have an intact language or intact nationality that brings us together despite our differences. We are the food for the groups. Right. So we are the ones that drive the economy. So and this is the thing. So the whole discussion about coping. So we control. Right. I agree with you, AM1. Until we control the resources. And this is what we got to understand. So until we get into the position as men where we can control the resources, we're always going to be fair game for the other groups that come in. We're always going to be food. This is our country. They can't kick us out the country. They can kick the other immigrants out. The other immigrants come with an intact culture. We are a destroyed culture. We don't have a thing where we can say, like, if you look at Palestinians, they in Palestine throwing bricks at fucking tanks. But they have different religious groups. What we're bringing them together is that they are Palestinian people. We don't know what we are. We Creole, we fucking Geechee, we all kinds of shit. We divided into we right wing, left wing. We so many different things. Instead of saying we are Negro people in America, we are a distinct group in America, and that's what should bring us together within the diaspora. And we fail to realize that shit. So until we get it right, we're gonna always be fucked up. And with that note, I'm gonna sign off on that. You want to end anything, Moses, before we go?
No, sir. Appreciate the spot. Thanks, man.
I want to say thank you for coming on. I want to say thank you to everybody in the chat room, all the 40 people that's watching. We're gonna have more conversations like this because I think that it's necessary. These conversations is not putting black men down. These conversations is for black awareness and black development. I get on a lot of times the men because I feel like it's our responsibility to fix this shit. This shit is fucked up. And whatever women that we can't get fixed, then guess what? They're going to get left behind. But I believe, brothers in the chat, that when we get right, the right women will show up in our lives. And some of the women that ain't right will get right. So peace to y'all again, man. Thank you for watching, man. So remember, I love my people more than they hate themselves. And I pray to the universal creator most high that these words was enough to inspire you. These words was enough to make you look at yourself in the mirror and make change. These words was enough to make you look at your children and know you have to make change. These words was enough to make you think, black man, that you can be powerful, independent of this white consciousness. We have to have a thought process outside of the box, black man. And we have to begin to move as a collective consciousness to generate resources and to create the change that we want. And when we will do that by nature, most of our women will follow. Remember, I love y'all. Peace.